Hi, I'm Mary Greendale, and welcome to our annual series of interviews of candidates for local offices. The town election is May 24th. We have contests for Select Board, Finance Committee, Planning Board, and School Committee. I am interviewing all these candidates. I have prepared questions specific to each board or committee. Each candidate will respond to the same questions for that office. This allows voters the chance to compare the candidates' approaches and thinking according to the issue. These videos will run a maximum of 25 minutes and will be available on HCAT's website, on HCAT's YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. So let's get started. So now let me introduce Tina Hein, who's a candidate for re-election to the Select Board. Hi, Tina. Welcome.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So we're going to jump right into this because I'm not giving you a whole lot of time. So just please tell us briefly about yourself, who you are, and how long you've lived here and that kind of thing.
Sure. So I moved to Holliston in 1980 as a 9-year-old, entering 4th grade, and have essentially lived in Holliston since then, although I did step away for my fun years, which were college and graduate school, and a year immediately after, but pretty quickly came back to Holliston to raise my family. I have 4 children. 3 of them are graduates of the Holliston High School program. They went through French immersion, and one of them is a 9th grader in the high school. I have 2 parents who still live in town. I see them regularly on the street that I grew up on. And Travis and I, my husband and I, have been here since 1996, I believe. So we're members of St. Mary's Parish. Again, I'm a Holliston High School graduate, and I love this town.
All right. So why did you choose to run for Select Board and not some other one of the committees?
One of the biggest reasons 3 years ago was wanting to take an active role in issues addressing quality of life here in Holliston, particularly complicated and chronic traffic issues. That was what drew me to the Select Board, being able to have an active role. The Executive Board offers, I believe, a unique and significant opportunity to preserve, to enhance the character of the town. And I was very interested 3 years ago in being a part of that. I was at a point in my career, I should mention I'm a physical therapist. I work in acute care at Milford Regional Medical Center and have been a therapist since I graduated from college and have never done anything else. And there was a part of me that was very interested in broadening my professional skills and learning some new ones and bringing what I have developed over the years as a caring, compassionate physical therapist into my community, and that was what drew me to the Select Board 3 years ago. And
Has it worked? Have you learned things?
I would say I'm looking for my master's degree at this point, and I would like somebody to hand it to me now, because I've got the books, the notes, I've got the hours of study.
Yep.
Sure, I know.
And you've been tested.
I feel like I've earned a master's degree, another one, yes.
So what do you think your skills and experience were, coming in?
So I think a long career as a physical therapist means, especially in acute care, well, in any area of physical therapy, means you have skills as a problem solver. And when you're being a problem solver in very intense environments, you also are being asked to show care and compassion. And those were skills that I thought would really translate well into serving my community. And so I brought those skills. I am an active listener. I'm a critical thinker. I have, I believe, a calm and respectful style of interacting with within my own board, during meetings, with other stakeholders, and so I believe that's a skill that I bring. In terms of experience, I would like to point out that I'm a member of the Leadership Metro West Academy, which has been around since 1992. There are a couple Holliston alums. Our own Jacqueline Weiner, who's the Director of Youth and Family Services, she is a alum of the Academy. And so the skills and experience that I'm getting from this current ongoing class that I'm a member of are tremendous. And I'd like to point out that I'll be the first member of the Select Board to be a graduate of the Academy. So I bring that experience as well.
Okay. So what do you think are the two biggest issues that are facing the Select Board in the next 3 years? What do you propose? And if we don't do them, what do you think the implications are?
Bringing new revenue into town is something that we're going to need to take to another level moving forward. I think the effort's always been there. I think that there has to be collaboration among boards and committees and town departments to be looking at that. We've got to balance out the demands that we have for our aging infrastructure and the improvements that we're going to need. And in bringing in that new revenue and addressing those infrastructure needs, I really believe we will end up improving the quality of life for families in Holliston. One particular, I mean, there are many projects underway, many initiatives underway. I would speak to one specifically, which is the feasibility study about to start for a downtown sewer district, expanding the sewer system here in Holliston to try to bring in the downtown area. I think that presents opportunities for economic growth in a way we haven't necessarily seen in the last at least 5 to 10 years. And so I offer that as a solution. I think balancing out the character of our small town, our small quaint town, against regional growth in housing density, in industry, in traffic congestion. I think that's an issue facing this town. I think it's facing many towns. Holliston loves our quaint downtown. I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm probably speaking for about 14,999 other residents. And so we need to balance, how do we maintain that character, enhance it even, while the region around us is changing. And I think that's a very real challenge. I would point out one other one. I do believe that we need to improve public trust in local government, and we need to increase positive engagement with local government. Residents need to know that their local government is going to be responsive to their needs, and I believe that that's a challenge facing us today that I'd like to see improve.
How would you do that?
I mean, I do think it starts with showing up, doing the hard work, demonstrating that you're a consistent leader, picking up the phone, answering the email, meeting with people. I believe the Select Board of the last year or 2 or 3 has reached out to the public in ways that are quite significant. We've had public forums, surveys. I believe the Envision Holliston Committee is another great opportunity to engage with our community. There's a lot of work to be done there, but once you start the process, or now that we're sort of beginning stages underway through the Envision Holliston Committee, you build momentum, and I believe once people start to have much greater trust and engagement with their local government, it's just going to snowball quickly. That's my belief, at least.
Okay. All right. So you sort of alluded to this, but the town never has enough money to pay for everything that it needs, let alone anything that it wants. And when you're faced with the choice between 2 very compelling needs, what is your thought process? How do you weigh and measure?
Yeah, this is pretty clear for me. I mean, first and foremost, is the greater good being served? And I know that could be somewhat subjective, but I think that's the first question. Not, do my opinions align? Do my feelings about the need align with what the need is, but more is this, can I demonstrate, can I show that this is serving the greater good? Once I've established that in my mind, I then look to see where does it align with town priorities, where does it align with addressing resident concerns, and I do think that we have a lot of outreach to residents that gives me that place to turn to. So if we are serving the greater good, if well, what was you prompted me by saying if there are limited resources for a thing?
Yeah, thinking process? No,
if we don't have enough
compelling needs.
Yeah, so if the need serves a greater good, if I know it aligns with the town's priorities, and if it addresses a resident concern, then it goes right to the top of the list for me. So that's how I view choices that need to be made.
Don't you find times when you hit all 3 bars?
So then you turn to expert opinion.
Okay.
Which it's always a part of the process. Okay. But if all of those boxes are checked and now you're left with, you turn to those around me, other members of my board, other board and committee members, other staff, department heads, if we have consultants coming in, they're a source, an important source as well. Like, what's their feedback, what's their input?
Interesting. Okay, gotcha. And what do you need to know before you decide it, and does public opinion weigh on that? I mean, you've said you want to take it for what people have reached out to you and said, okay, I hate the traffic on my street or whatever. But just public opinion in the generic sense, you know, that sort of, you get a sense of how people feel about things. Does that matter?
Yes, very much, in context. So if someone picks up the phone and calls me, I'm absolutely going to give them the time of day and listen to them. If someone sends me an email, I'm going to read and be thoughtful, and I'm going to respond. If someone shows up at a meeting and has public comment to make, yes, it becomes a part of the decision making. Is it the most important thing? If it's, I mean, I do to a certain extent think we all recognize there's a vocal minority, and you have to be cognizant of that without at the same time dismissing anybody's point of view. So it's a balancing act, but you have to show up and listen. And I believe I do that, and then it becomes a part of the decision making. It is a part, for sure.
Okay. Are there changes that you would recommend making to the way in which government operates? And I'm talking process and organization as opposed to, I don't know, anything else.
I mean, I'll speak very specifically at first, and then generally. Specifically, we should have a tri-board meeting. We should have them periodically.
Tri-board.
Yep.
Three.
We
who are
should
the
have.
three?
Right. So we should have at least once, if not twice, annually a meeting with the Finance Committee, the Select Board, and the School Committee. They are key to understanding where each of those significant, important committees in our town sit on different issues, and getting some common understanding, some starting points for conversations like the budget process. So I believe that that is an improvement to town government that I'd like to see moving forward. We've had some efforts in it. I mean, it's not like it doesn't happen. It's just I'd like to see that consistently be in place, to have that kind of dialogues at least once or twice a year, where we're understanding the issues that each board or committee faces, and we're, again, establishing a starting point for moving through whichever the process is, like capital planning or budget process. I think that's important. I do think that there should be more civil debate and coordination among boards and committees in general. I'm not picking on anyone. It doesn't even have to include the Select Board. But I think the more you have boards and committees, members of those communicating, this is part of the hard work of showing up to do these elected jobs. You have to be willing to put the time in to build those relationships. I think that would be a huge improvement for any local government, not just here in Holliston. Civil debate needs to be civil and positive and productive, and I think that goes a long way to getting there. I think trust, like I mentioned before, and the ability of local government to make positive change, that's something that I'd like to see a whole lot more of, because it's just so important. I think you have a lot of great people working very hard, and having public trust is important. I think that we have limited resources by nature. Every community does, so we have to be more efficient in how town hall operates and how our departments operate. So part of that efficiency, I think, again, comes back to communication, collaboration, and building relationships.
You used a word or two words that were, talking about positive results. And I'm just wondering, are you happy with the positive results of your first term?
So can you give me a specific example? I mean, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth and say, I think this is a positive result, unless you would like me to.
I'm thinking about something that you were involved in. So specifically, when you first started, you came in with an idea of...
I would say one great example, there are many, one great example would be a very early step that happened in my, so COVID changed everything. Let's just put that out on the table. I've been on the board for 3 years, and more than two have been under the pall of a global pandemic. But before all that started, when I first joined the board, we put in an application for Shared Streets and Spaces, which is a Mass Department of Transportation program that, well, actually it was around that time, I should say. Maybe it was after, sorry, COVID memory,
matter.
COVID brain, you forget the details on some of these things. It was an early experience that brought a little bit of money, not a lot of money, under $15,000, under $20,000, not a lot of money to Holliston. And through this program, we made some changes down on Front Street. It was not smooth sailing right from the get-go all the way through. There was public feedback. I like this, I don't like that. We did our best to adapt and make permanent changes with that small amount of money. And I believe that bridged a little bit of a gap to contribute to changes happening in Blair Square. So I feel like that's one example of a positive change that has really added to positive change that's coming down the road. So adding the parking spaces, doing the one-way, giving a little bit more land, taking a little bit more asphalt away from Front Street, giving it back to Blair Square, then they were able to build on that in their design. So it just sort of started, I think, a positive change in that area. Some of it was underway already, but it didn't take much money. And the changes were relatively small. And I think when it's all said and done and Blair Square hopefully is completed, we're going to be really happy with the results down there. So I think that's one example of like a positive change that's snowballing into another positive change that in the end is going to be a very big positive change.
Great. That's great. So, given your sphere of influence now and the leadership role that you are seeking, what are the policies and practices that need to be implemented and changed to advance greater equity and inclusion and access for all residents?
So I'll be very specific on this one. You could go in a lot of different directions with that question, but I'll be really specific. I believe the town needs to prioritize capital projects and spending that gives greater access to people who bike, to people who walk, to people who use public transit in Holliston. There are residents who make daily choices on how they access the community around them that have either a cost or a risk associated with it because they don't have access. And I believe that's an equity issue. I believe transportation is an equity issue. I believe that if Holliston is going to be more equitable for all residents in Holliston, one place to look is transportation, and that means, in my mind, that means giving greater access to people who bike, to people who walk, to people who use public transit.
When you do that and you talk about public transit, are you looking at seniors? I mean, that's
a piece of it, sure.
You know, it's a part of it. But.
Sure, we have a van that services seniors within the community. We also have the Metro West Regional Transit Authority. Those would be the two key ones in my mind when I speak of public transit.
And would you be looking to expand?
Through the select board, you'd have very limited Let me think on that one. Expand how the senior van operates.
How more seniors can be take advantage of it.
Sure. I think one example of that would be in downtown providing handicap van accessibility in the downtown area so that the senior van can show up in downtown, open its doors, and have those riders safely get out with easy access on level surface to the downtown commercial retail district. That would be a great example. I think, so let me expand on that a little bit further. I think that adding bus shelters, as we're proposing for the downtown MWRTA stops, gives people with disability greater protection from the weather. It creates a safe space for people. So I think that that's another opportunity that might drive some more ridership through downtown Holliston, at least improve the comfort of those who do ride.
Now, when I think of diversity in terms of racial diversity, is there anything that you would be looking at?
So I'll be very specific on this one. As a part of the Leadership Metro West Academy, we are, as a member of the class of 2022, we are working on projects through this experience. And the project that I am working on, the group of individuals I'm working with, is to fund an equity scholarship, which would bring in individuals within the Metro West region who represent diversity. We would offer, the Academy would offer a scholarship 2 a year. This is the first year, so we have 2 recipients in our class for the first time, and my project is to do fundraising for that scholarship so that it's sustained, so that for at least a number of years out, the scholarship will exist, and it will be for individuals who demonstrate diversity of race, of ethnicity, of experience in the area of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. So that's one way I'm directly involved today, and I will look to nominate, recommend candidates for next year's Academy from the town of Holliston for that scholarship, but also for the Academy, but specifically for that scholarship, so that we can be driving people from Holliston into a leadership program that then benefits Holliston, but the whole community.
And bigger area. I mean, even the regional. Okay. So, you have 2 minutes where you can give a pitch for why we as voters should vote for you.
Sure, I am definitely prepared to give that pitch, Mary. So here goes. My leadership style embraces respect and gratitude. The Select Board is best served by members who care deeply about Holliston. And understand that being effective means being a true public servant who represents the whole community. I believe I've demonstrated that well over my past 3 years on the board. I've brought real change in Holliston in my 3 years. I've listened to the needs and ideas of others, and I have worked very hard. I believe I've demonstrated strong leadership, and I think most important of all, I want to continue to do this. You need people who are going to work hard in this role, and I'm prepared and dedicated and motivated to do just that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. All right, so Tina Hein, thank you. Thank you for watching Just Thinking. You've done your homework, so please remember to vote on May 24th. It's important for you, your family, and the community. Thank you.